Hello. I'm gonna get a beer. Let folks pop in. There you go. Let's see here. Trying to straighten all this stuff with my handy dandy mount. I'm going to start right back up in a minute. Oh no. Let's see here. What do we have here? There we go. Let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and throw out some invites. Just to see if there's anybody out there that wants to see this nonsense. Let's see here. Oh, if anybody else really wants to show up, they'll show up. Make sure that's okay. There we go. See, there's a couple people on here. Just go ahead and kick back. I know a couple of you wanted to look at this, and let me actually add one more person I need to send an invite to. Where's Miss Tracy? There we go, Tracy Mack. We're getting an invite. I know she was specifically excited about getting a chance to see this. So today I'm having another adult beverage. If you got one, go ahead and pour one. This is the Dundee Brown Ale. There we are. If the audio is not good, let me know. Of course, though, if the audio is not good, you probably not be able to tell me. So I'm going to go ahead and, as I've told a number of people, I'm going to make ramen today. The ramen that I'm going to be making is just because a lot of people have, hey Gabby, a lot of the ramen that people have is the just cheap, nasty Maruchan brick of ramen. And I know a lot of people picked up a whole bunch of that, and a lot of people are probably tired of having noodles with salty, nondescript flavored stuff. I mean, it's just, I remember living on this stuff in college and for a while when I was in the Army, and I know it's not the best stuff ever. So I'm going to show you what real ramen is like, and so we can take this and turn it into a real meal that is going to be much more substantial and much more fun. All told, the stuff that I know I mentioned to a couple people previously, the stuff I'm going to be putting into this, I've got green onion or scallions, whichever you choose to call it. I've got some carrot. I've got some bacon. I've got some soy sauce. I've got sesame oil. I've got some bouillon. A little bit later, I've got some kimchi. I also have to grab an egg out of the fridge. I've also got nori. That's like the little pieces of seaweed that what you can do with, you can get these in these little boxes And so typically what we'll use them for is if we're having rice or something, you can just pop a little bit of cooked rice in the middle of one of these sheets and fold it up, pop it in your mouth. A nice little piece of dinner. But for this, what I like doing is I like slicing this up and putting it on top at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and start prepping everything. First thing first, let me grab my egg. That sounds like a weird thing. And again, not all of this stuff. You don't have to have all this stuff. Hey, Kyla. You don't have to have all of this stuff in your ramen when you cook it. But I'm going to go ahead and set the egg in that pot. Before I get that started, though, we had ramen earlier as a family. So let me see. I'm going to lower this camera so you can make sure you can see the... Hey, Brandon. I'm going to lower this so you can see what's going on here. I think you can... Yeah, you should be able to see that. This is a skillet we were cooking earlier. We made ramen for everybody else, and I didn't take any that time. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this piece of bacon, always a good thing to throw in with ramen. The fat adds a little bit, the oil from it adds a little bit. I've got the skillet, I'm putting it on to high heat. Hey, Francine. And so kitchen shears are always a good thing. So I took a strip of bacon, half a strip of bacon, cut it into 3 pieces, and so I'm going to throw this in to a skillet on high heat, just to kind of put a little bit of a brown on it. As Chef Ann says, brown food is good. So I'm going to put just a little bit of a brown, a little bit of a crisp on this, just to get a little bit of color, and then I'm going to take it out. I'm not going to cook it all the way through like you would if you're having bacon for breakfast or whatever. So, and by the way, if the music I'm listening to is a little bit too loud, let me know. Oh yeah. Kind of hard to drink your beer when you pour it into a glass already. So I hope everybody is having an awesome Saturday, and I hope everybody is getting along well, and staying safe and staying away from everybody else. Social distancing is the way to do it. Sizzling is always a good sound. So I'm cooking it in a little bit of the bacon grease I had left over from earlier. Like I said, we made ramen for everyone earlier here, and I held off because of this, but I kept the bacon grease, so we're going to continue to use that. And I just want to get a little bit of color in the bacon. I don't want to necessarily cook it all the way through. And if nothing else, bacon's not like it was. Hey, Sarah. Bacon's not like it was like 40, 50 years ago. You're not going to get warm or anything from it. Nice to see you on here too, Francine. Alright, so I've got just a little bit of color on the bacon. Just wanted to get it a little bit cooked up. So I'm taking it off the heat. I'm going to set it aside. And now is when I start the egg. Like I said, I already have an egg in here. Just going to take an egg. Because one of the things I always like to have on my ramen is an egg. And if you're not used to having an egg on your ramen, you're missing out. So, I've already got my water. This, like again, cheap brick of ramen, 2 cups of water. Cold water, just like regular when you're starting anything. Start with cold water. I'm going to put that onto a quick boil. And so the idea here is you're going to take, hey Bonnie, you're going to take the egg, and you are going to, essentially you're going to be soft boiling it while you're cooking the noodles. And when you're doing this, so you're going to get, the egg's going to be mostly solid, but you're going to have a runny yolk. If you like a more solid egg, if you like it more done, then you want to take the egg and let it cook for another couple of minutes under the boil before you put your noodles in. Myself, I just start it up. Once it gets to a boil, noodles go in. And then you're going to go right with what the timer says on here. You do not want your noodles to cook too long. And so on here, it's the cheap ramen, cooked for 3 minutes while stirring occasionally. as this is warming up, instead of using the full pack of the ramen spice, because the flavor mixture in there is kind of questionable, I like to add a little bit of bouillon instead, and a little bit of soy sauce, and then you only add in about half of your flavor pack. There you go. Because all that nasty that's in the flavor pack, this way you know a little bit more of what's going on. My water's boiling. I'm going to take my brick. Some people like to break the brick in half. I don't. Hey, Nancy and Bob. I have not seen you guys since you were at Cody. Oh, goodness. That was almost 12 years ago. Hope you guys are doing good up there in Oregon. And I don't know what... Oh, yeah, rice around it. Okay, now I see the joke there, Bob. So, I've got this going. I'm going to set the timer 3 minutes with that in there. Let me get that back up to make sure it's boiling nicely. While that's cooking up, I am going to prep my vegetables that I'm going to be putting in here. Green onion or scallion, I've already cleaned it and got the tip off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the scallion and I'm going to start cutting it on a little bit of a bias. And if you want to get a lot of fun with it, it's like anytime you're cooking and you're using a green onion, I like taking a lot of the white of it, chuck it in, and that way you've got some good stuff there to add a little bit more flavor to it. And then reserve some of the shoot from the green onion so you can throw that on a little bit later just to make it a little bit prettier and have a little bit of extra flair to it. Okay, and while that's continuing to cook, I'm going to take a little bit of sesame oil. Just a little drizzle of sesame oil in the bottom of the bowl. A little bit of soy sauce, a little shot of that in the bottom of the bowl. Just let that sit. And we're almost done cooking. Now next trick. You remember that egg that's in there? Take out the egg. I'm going to get prepped for the egg. That egg's got to get peeled. And the easiest way to peel an egg, if you don't do this trick already, is you take your egg. Hey, I see Robin popped in. I see Sandy popped in. Hey, Stacy popped in. But you take that egg, and as soon as you take it out of the hot water, you go ahead and throw it right into an ice bath, and that helps you get that shell right off. And while that's finishing up, I've got some baby carrots, which I've sliced in half. I'm going to julienne those. You can get carrot strips from the grocery store. You can get full-on carrots and do those however you want to, but I like to julienne carrots. And again, this is my recipe, the way that I like to cook ramen, and the way I like to kind of pretty it up there at the end. If you don't like to do that, you don't have to. If there's stuff in here you don't want, don't use it. Cooking is cooking. And a lot of this I like to pick out just because we have it in our cupboard and in our fridge right now. A lot of people, when they've been stocking up, they've been collecting a lot of cheap ramen, they've been collecting a lot of other vegetables and things in their fridge. Alright, time's off. Take off the heat. First thing I'm going to do is take that egg, drop it into the ice bath. See, hey Maggie, ¿cómo estás? Alright, noodles immediately out of the broth. If you leave the noodles in the broth, they're just going to get drunk. They're going to get full up of everything else. So just leave the noodles in the bowl. Don't touch the noodles now. This is where we start prepping everything else that's going to go in here. So I've got the egg, that boiled egg. Remember, it's going to be a soft boiled egg the way that you did this. And I just go ahead and I peel it, drop the peelings right back into the measuring cup. And so, like I said, it's a soft boiled egg, so it's going to be wanting to break on you. This thing's got a little bit of jiggle to it right now. And so don't be surprised if you might have a little bit of trouble at times. There we go. It's going to take a little bit of skill finishing this up without breaking it open. Because part of this egg really wants... There we go. So, one soft-boiled egg. I'm going to set that right over here with my bacon slices I did earlier. I'm going to get this measuring cup out of the way. Now, to start prepping everything else as it all goes together. Hey, Julia. So, what I want to do now is I've got this bowl of noodles. I've got the broth that's sitting here ready to go. I've got my cooked bacon. I've got a soft-boiled egg. I have my leftover of the scallions. I've got my julienne carrots. And I'm a personal fan of kimchi. Some people don't like kimchi. I do. So now that everything is ready, this is where you start putting everything all together. So you want to do this right before you actually serve it because, again, you put the hot broth into the noodles, they get drunk. So there comes the broth. Broth's going in. I'm going to take my bacon and put that in. And if you go to a lot of places, you might get pork belly. All American bacon is a little bit saltier pork belly. And at this point, you can just start putting it into like little quadrants of how you want to set stuff up. You kind of space out. Somebody told me that they didn't have any scallions, but they had leeks. Yeah, you can take a leek and you can do that too, but you just want to make it smaller, maybe cook it up a little bit. And again, I like kimchi, so I'll drop a little bit of kimchi in there. And now for the egg. If you have an egg slicer, like what you might use for boiled eggs to turn them into slices, then great, you can do that. Otherwise, there we go. Right across the blade of the sharp knife. A little bit of the scallions that are left. Let me go ahead and I'll grab my phone so you can get a good shot of this. Oh, nori flakes. I forgot to do a nori flake. Hey, Brandon. So, kitchen shear is always a good thing for this. Take the nori flake, cut it in half, fold it over, and then you can start cutting strips. And if you don't know what nori flakes are, you can get them in Walmart. You can get them in a lot of other places. It's just little small salted seaweed strips right there. You can see that. Hey, Michelle. So, if you want to see the final product, I'm going to... There we go. So that's what I have. And that is going to be a very special, little fun thing to eat. Let me get the phone back up here on the cabinet. So that's it. I mean, here I am. I started 15 minutes ago, and there we go. Not a whole lot of mess. I mean, yeah, granted, if you're making regular ramen, you're going to be just throwing everything into one pot, and then it just cooks up. And then you can take that and dump it into a bowl. But if you're doing something like this, you're going to get much better product. It's much more filling. It's much better tasting. It is better for you because you've got a lot of this other stuff. You can also, the more stuff you add to it, if you have like one of those packs that you might eat yourself, this way you can throw that together and it's enough for 2 people. So, I mean, if you want to be a little bit thrifty with what you do, But I mean, there's so many different things you can do, and there's so many different ways you can do it. If you, a lot of people have in America a really bad taste in their mouth for ramen, simply because that's how they think of it. Is they think it's that crappy stuff that they bought for 20 cents a pack in whenever Smith's or Albertsons or Safeway or whoever your grocery store is, like every Wednesday or Thursday when the circulars come out. That's when we go and we save it all, because that's what we starved on in college. So, oh, a new t-shirt. I have had this t-shirt for a while. This is my Knights Who Until Recently Said Me t-shirt. But yeah, this is the this right here is the type of ramen that if you show up in LA, if you show up in a K-town or a J-town, like for Koreatown or Japantown, anywhere in the United States, they'll have ramen shops that will sell, like that. In Japan is ramen, in Korea is ramyeon, which is kind of why I typically end up going with the. I typically go with adding some kimchi to it, but we are really, really good. I mean, like I remember in college eating just horrible ramen. And I mean, just because that's what I had money for, and that's what I did. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I started to recognize the better ramen and how to go about doing it. So, to celebrate this little meal with you, the other alcohol in the house, a little shot of soju. And get my chopsticks out. Gumbob. Good stuff. I hope you guys have a great day. Yeah, Francine, living on ramen isn't fun. But you can make anything you want to make. If you want to see other stuff that I've done, this is actually the 4th video I've done in this series. I've done guacamole, baking powder biscuits, and pancakes. Because I know there's a lot of people out there right now who have never had to really cook stuff. And even like people on my friends list, and now that you've got a whole bunch of stuff hopefully still in your cupboards, this is all stuff that you can do from what's in your cupboards. Especially with the guacamole and with the ramen, it's stuff that if you go to the grocery store, there's tons of stuff in the produce sections. The produce sections are full. I mean, you might see the rice is gone, noodles are gone, other stuff's gone, and thank you, Francine. You haven't even tried my food. I don't know about saying a great cook. I am a good cook. And there are things that I would love to be able to do, but I can't. But I would love to get there. But just you can take what you have and you can eat a whole lot better, because I know that's one of the things that has come about as a good side effect of the coronavirus is a lot of people are eating at home. A lot of people are learning how to cook and becoming cooks and better cooks. And it's just, I think, a really good side effect of everything. If anybody can learn this, anything during this time frame, I think you can learn that the food that you're eating doesn't have to be what you're eating. It can be much better. Hey, Joanne. The stuff that you can do with food, the stuff that's available, is really amazing, and it's really easy, and it is a whole lot easier than people think it is. And that was really, really, really tasty. Just some little tips and tricks. How are you doing? One thing on the sesame oil, I've seen a lot of people like to cook with sesame oil. Sesame oil is often done best right at the very end of when you're cooking it. I typically, if I'm going to cook stuff in oil, I use either olive oil or like regular corn or canola oil. And then if I'm doing sesame oil, I'll throw that in right towards the very end, more for the flavor. all of a sudden I just turned this into a mukbang, didn't I? And for anybody who doesn't know what a mukbang is, take a look for it on YouTube. Sesame oil is a game changer if it's used correctly. If it's not used correctly, it can ruin your food. Oh, where's the egg? Where's the egg? There's the egg. And it's one of the reasons why I like the soft-boiled egg is when you get that soft-boiled egg and you get the yolk, you do what I'm doing right now, and you're stirring it up, it makes the whole thing creamier. And it just turns it all into this amazing... It's like now that I've got that eaten and mixed up a little bit, let me get the camera again. So it kind of starts to get this going on. Now that I've got my messed up counter. So it almost turns into like a real solid soup. And a lot of people don't really get how good this can all be when you get it all cooked together. And I really just don't want to sit here and let it go because, like I said, the noodles, you can already tell that the noodles are starting to get a little bit soaking up a little bit too much of the broth. And if you're ever in an actual legit ramen shop, don't be surprised if people are sitting there slurping everything up. Hi, Tina. Hey, Lexi. How are you doing? So, yeah, anyway, really good stuff. Lexi, knowing that you're going to be going to college in a couple of years, you need to go back and watch this whole video so you actually know how to eat ramen and you can show up all your friends with the dorms. But this is some yummy food, and we have ramen probably once or twice a week. We don't have the cheap ramen, though. We usually have anything, a lot of Shin ramen. Shin makes some really good stuff. This tends to be spicier. This tends to be something that's a little bit more stronger flavors, but it also is a much higher quality noodle. It's much higher quality spices. You'll actually have dehydrated vegetables in the flavor packs. And so it's really, really good stuff. So much better. And where that last one claimed it's a 2-serving pack, this is legitimately a 2-serving pack. Especially when you start throwing everything else in. But yeah, just ramen is an easy thing just to make it what you want and make it what you can. Beyond that, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and get back to eating my lunch and start slurping some more noodles. But yeah, you'll see people slurping noodles left and right in ramen shops. But Francine, I'm really happy that you stayed on as long as you did and that you enjoyed it as much as you did. And we'll go ahead and continue on to see how we're doing. And I've been trying to do these every weekend at some point, so just keep an eye out for some more coronavirus cooking, and I will try to see about getting a little bit more tips in for how to do stuff. Not a lot of work, really good food. And I guess that's kind of one of my big mottos in the kitchen. Simple is usually better. Brown food is good. What's next? I've had some questions about that. There's been a couple of things that people have suggested that are really time-consuming and work-intensive or just the process is something that's not easily done for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And so I'm kind of working through to figure out what I want to do with that. There's a couple of different ideas that I have, but I'll be thinking about it. And hopefully I'll have an idea by this time next week. But yeah, just keep track, and I'll continue to try to post some videos up about what I'm doing, and I'll kind of keep people up for what we are planning to do. But Francine, you stay safe down in Texas. Nancy and Bob, you guys stay safe up in Oregon. We will. Everybody's got to continue doing what they can, and this is kind of part of what I can, partially because I enjoy cooking. I enjoy telling people about my cooking, and I enjoy the social interactions that I get off of you guys, hanging out and because I actually work every day, and being the only person in the building while everybody else is working from home tends to drive me nuts because I miss being around everybody. So this gives me an opportunity. Hey, Jenny. And so we are this is part of my thing. I enjoy getting a chance to interact with people, whether it's something like this or like last night, I was on a virtual happy hour with friends across about 5 states. And so that was a lot of fun doing that too. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for coming in. And if you want to see how the ramen gets put together and what it finally looks like, oh, excuse me, go ahead and watch it back over from the beginning. And thanks for coming in. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.